everyone. Welcome to another episode of Open Mic Discussions. Today, I'm very excited to have a couple friends here. I'll tell you about in just a minute. We're going to be hearing from them about, with the Ukrainian and Russian war, about some of the hate that Russians have been receiving and kind of hear their perspective as well. As Americans, I encourage you to sit back, ask questions, research on your own, because oftentimes we hear from both sides of mainstream media to form a certain opinion and to shape your opinion to give a certain idea. And so I encourage you to listen to this podcast. If you're interested in being on this podcast as well, I'm interested in hearing from you as well. So please subscribe, like, and share. And so without further ado, my good friend Natalie, I've known for quite some time. She's helped me out with speaking Russian and studying Russian. And then this is her boyfriend, Dmitry, that I'm meeting for the first time. We had some conversation right before this, super cool guy. So how are y'all doing?
Thank you, Matthew.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. So tell me, what are your thoughts on all this? We kind of talked a little bit, Natalie, if y'all can tell me, just from your perspective we want to hear it straight from you.
It's really now a hard situation for Russians and also for Ukraine. For example, I can introduce the situation from my side, and I think there are a lot of people as me, because I have relatives not only in Russia but also in Ukraine. My grandparents now live in Ukraine, but my father and mother live in Moscow in Russia. And for example, my grandfather is already 92 years old, and thank God that he's alive. But it's really a bad situation, because my father couldn't go to Ukraine now, and it's not only because of war, because he's already old for this army, for Russian army and Ukrainian army, but it's restriction, because we have a Russian citizenship, a Russian passport. And for example, me, I couldn't also go to Ukraine. Now I live in Germany, and I have visa, Europe visa, but I have Russian passport that is already like restriction, and I couldn't go to Ukraine to visit my grandparents. And of course, and yes, from other side, my grandparents have Ukrainian passport, and they, for example, can go to Europe, but it's already about 90 years old. And of course, it's really so complicated path to go to Europe for them. And I think it's a disgusting situation, terrible situation. And another side, also my family have a lot of friends. Also, for example, the men work in Russia because the salary is more than in Ukrainian, but other part of family live in Ukrainian because they love this country and it's like a motherland. And it's also now a restriction for them to visit each other and to see each other, and also the sort problems, for example, with real estate, because it was announced maybe several months ago that Ukrainian government will nationalize, yes, this real estate, because someone has a Russian passport and they live in this enemy region. But these people were born in Ukraine, and it's I think it's really not about tolerance and democracy, because I think in our world, a person can choose any place for living, and our world should be open, not what's happening now. And it's I think the most important restriction from my side, and also I think from the side from people who also spread between Russia and Ukrainian regions. And it's sometimes, yeah, it's really complicated how situation.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I'm aware that there's been, tough sanctions against Russia, which, from my understanding, the U.S. has had sanctions with many countries throughout the years, Cuba, various countries, and yeah, I may not know all the details, but the sanctions seem to hurt the people, the innocent civilians, more than it hurts the governments, right?
Yes.
So I think it's really bad because it puts the people, innocent bystanders, in grave poverty and doesn't really affect the leaders as we're told to. Now, just to clarify, so when you say they want to nationalize the property, you mean basically like take the homes?
Yes, because you have a Russian passport. And for example, it hurts, first of all, the common people, not oligarch and etc. Because of course, oligarch have a lot of money, and if they want to get visa and etc. For big money, it's possible, yeah. But for common people, it's not possible. And I think it's really now it's a big separation between people. I mean, between different level.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let me ask you a question, and I have to ask this. So, I know you can't speak for all Russian people, but I speak to, I have friends in Russia, all over Ukraine as well, Ukrainian friends. Do the Russian people that you know of, do they want war with Ukraine? With the Ukrainian people?
I mean, in a sense, I would say nobody wants a war.
Yes.
I believe, like, some people, they were kind of like, let's say, baptized in a certain way, or they kind of think, okay, like, there is like I say, there is a mission, and somehow, like, some people are really convinced what this mission, like, somehow they should bring to Ukraine. But I mean, like, in general sense, I guess nobody wants a war. Basically, what is a war? War is like a really meaningless thing. And who wins? I guess nobody wins if a war takes place. So.
Absolutely. That makes sense. Well, like I said, I speak to a lot of Russian people every day, a lot of Russian friends, and all of them said, Ukrainian people are like our brothers and sisters. We don't want the war. And, but unfortunately, I think speaking from the American side is, we're just showing our media is pushing this idea of what they want us to think, and I think it's crazy because I think that we should be encouraged to ask questions and to, research and then formulate our own opinions rather than have a conditioned response. So can you tell me a bit about, like, we discussed a little bit about the type of hate being received. What have you experienced or what have you seen?